Savannah Lee adjusted the strap of her modest black dress as she stepped into the glittering ballroom of the Avalon Hotel. The grand space was alive with chatter and clinking glasses, where patrons in silk gowns and tailored tuxedos floated from one gilded table to another. Towering crystal chandeliers cast sparkling light over the polished marble floors, more reminiscent of a palace than a venue for a charity gala. Savannah's worn shoes clicked softly against the floor as she moved quietly along the edges, clipboard in hand, making note of minor details only she noticed: the sommelier's timing, the flower arrangement's freshness, the subtle hum of the string quartet warming up. She was a small part of a grand event, a humble assistant ensuring everything flowed smoothly, careful not to draw attention. Her heart thumped in rhythm with the music, half proud to be here and half painfully aware of the gulf between her plain attire and the sheen of luxury around her. The scent of expensive perfume mingled with fine cuisine. The air was alive with effortless wealth, a world far removed from Savannah's quiet apartment and months of scrimping to hold this job. Then, the delicate harmony shattered. An eruption of crashing glass came from the center stage. A towering sculpture, made entirely of stacked wine glasses filled with rich red wine, collapsed with a terrifying cascade. Wine splattered across a prominent guest's designer gown, the fabric staining irreparably. A dignified socialite snapped her head toward Savannah, eyes narrowing like a hawk. "You! How could you be so careless?" she hissed loudly, making her accusation sharp and unmistakable. Whispers rippled through the crowded room, and judgmental eyes locked on Savannah. The event manager hurried over, voice cold and clipped. "I'm sorry, Savannah, but we have to let you go," he said, already signaling security. Humiliated and stunned, Savannah felt the weight of false blame settle around her as she was gently but firmly led out, the crowd's disdain humming behind her. Her heart sank, but deep inside, she knew she had not caused the catastrophe. Back in her small, dimly lit apartment, Savannah Lee collapsed onto the worn armchair by the window, the hum of the city outside barely reaching her ears. The events of the evening replayed in her mind like an unforgiving loop: the shattering crash, the accusing glare, the murmurs, and then the cold announcement of her dismissal. She swallowed hard, attempting to steady the jittering in her hands. Hunger had fled hours ago, and dinner remained untouched on the small kitchen table, an untouched salad and a rapidly cooling cup of tea. Sleep was a stranger, teasing her with brief, tension-filled nods before slipping away again. Her phone lay silent as she avoided messages from friends and colleagues, unwilling to hear condolences or pity disguised as empty words. The weight of injustice sat heavy in her chest, squeezing out any comfort. The luxury ballroom, so alive with elegance, had become a place where she was not only invisible but a target for scorn. Her name, carefully built over months through hard work and quiet diligence, now echoed with whispered doubts and accusations. Her mind wandered back to who she once was, the years before this low, before the crash of glasses and broken trust. She saw herself as the bright student in a faded campus library, head bent over textbooks, soaking in lessons with sharp clarity. Hospitality had been her passion, a path she walked with determination and hope. But life had other plans. When her mother fell ill, it was Savannah who rearranged her dreams, setting aside scholarship offers and promising school years to become a caretaker. Her days became long stretches of hospital visits, caring hands, and whispered encouragements designed to protect her ailing parent from worrying. She recalled evenings spent balancing assignments with medications, the exhaustion folding her into bed before midnight, only to rise early and begin again. Money had always been scarce, with bills stacking like hurdles that seemed impossible to clear. Yet Savannah persevered, always smiling softly beneath her fatigue. Giving up had never been in her nature. When her mother passed, Savannah held a broken heart but refused to fracture her own resolve. She took on multiple jobs, a waitress spinning plates and smiles, a cleaner restoring order in upscale apartments, and finally the event assistant role that brought a flicker of pride. This job marked a step closer to reclaiming the life she'd imagined, a life where her efforts could shine, unshackled by past hardships. Here, she had found a fragile foothold among the glittering facades of the elite, a place where maybe, just maybe, she could belong in her own quiet way. But tonight had undone everything. The job she'd fought so hard to earn was lost in an instant. Her clean record, untarnished by any mishap, was now smeared by an accusation she knew was false. The ease and grace she once carried felt out of reach, replaced by a hollow ache of betrayal. She stared out the window, night deepening the shadows around her, and clenched her fists. Could she find a way to rise again from this fall? It was hard to see through the fog of humiliation and doubt. Yet, nestled inside, beneath layers of pain, a flicker of determination glowed. She might be knocked down, but she was not finished. Tomorrow, she thought, will be different. Tomorrow, she would start to piece together why the wine sculpture crashed and how she could clear her name. For now, though, Savannah let exhaustion claim her, finally surrendering to the fragile promise of sleep. Days slipped by in a blur for Savannah Lee, each one punctuated by restless nights and quiet moments weighted with doubt. Yet beneath the heaviness, a flicker of clarity began to form, as fragmentary memories from the night of the gala surfaced with surprising sharpness. It was a brief exchange, just a glance or perhaps a sidelong comment she had caught while adjusting a floral centerpiece, but something about it hadn't settled into place. She remembered, distinctly, a guest near the sculpture, a tall man with the kind of nervous energy that didn't fit the relaxed luxury surrounding him. He glanced repeatedly at the intricate wine-glass tower and ran his hand along the table edge, almost absent-mindedly. Then, moments before the crash, she recalled a brief tangle of voices. A woman nearby whispered hurriedly and cast a furtive glance around, anxiety etched across her face. Savannah's instincts told her this was no accident. With a shaky breath, Savannah reached for her phone and dialed the number of the event manager, Marcus Gillespie, hoping to revisit the incident. Marcus answered on the second ring, his voice clipped and maintaining the professional cool Savannah had come to expect during her short tenure under his supervision. "Marcus, it's Savannah," she began carefully. "I've been reviewing some footage online, and I think there's something about the sculpture incident that doesn't add up." Her voice was gentle but held a quiet urgency. There was someone near the sculpture right before it fell, acting oddly. "I think it wasn't an accident." There was a pause on the other end, the faint rustle of papers before Marcus replied, "Savannah, I appreciate you wanting to help, but the matter's been closed. The board has made its decision, and frankly, it's best we don't revisit it so soon. We're moving on." Her heart sank at the dismissal. "Please, just a quick look at the security cameras. I want to clear my name." "I'm sorry, but my hands are tied," Marcus said before ending the call. Feeling dismissed but not deterred, Savannah resolved to take action herself. She thought carefully. She had helped with setup and knew the security desk was staffed overnight. If she could find someone understanding who could show her the footage, she might confirm her suspicions. Late one evening, under a veil of quiet determination, Savannah returned to the Avalon Hotel. The lobby was deserted except for a lone security guard named Tom, someone she'd exchanged brief courteous words with during the event. During a previous conversation, Tom had mentioned he often reviewed footage out of his own curiosity, a small detour from his routine. She found him at the security checkpoint, a room filled with monitors that buzzed with soft light. "Tom, hi," she began hesitantly. "I know it's late, but I really need your help. There's been a mistake. The wine sculpture accident, someone else caused it, not me. I can't prove it without the footage." Tom looked up, eyebrows knitting briefly, but after a moment, nodded. "All right, Savannah. Let's see what we can find." They scanned through the security feeds from the night of the gala, seconds at a time. Savannah's pulse quickened as the timeline edged closer to the incident. The cameras revealed the dance of guests and staff, elegant dresses brushing by, waiters balancing trays, smiles and laughter. Then, there it was. A push from the shadows that went unnoticed. A woman with sharp eyes and expensive jewelry deliberately bumped a table near the sculpture. Her glance was hurried, as if watching to see the fallout. Moments later, the glasses wobbled, one top-heavy layer shifted, and a cascade of wine and crystal erupted. Savannah's breath caught. The woman was the very socialite who had publicly accused her. The image was clear, the woman's subtle act of sabotage masked by a casual stroll and then outrage that shifted suspicion to someone innocent. Tom whistled low under his breath. That's not a slip. That's deliberate. Savannah nodded, her quiet resolve solidifying. This changes everything. I need to get this to the right people, somehow. The hours that followed were a blur of calls and messages to contacts she barely knew, tales spun with the delicacy of a diplomat asking for second chances. Most doors closed silently, unwilling to reopen controversy. But several friends from previous events offered words of encouragement, small embers of support in a cold atmosphere. She crafted a plan to use this new evidence carefully. She understood the precariousness of her position. A simple assistant challenging the unspoken codes of the elite meant risking further dismissal. Yet the truth was her only weapon. Days later, Savannah found her opportunity. Another charity gala was announced, this time for a prestigious arts foundation. She volunteered discreetly as a helper, blending into the background once again, but this time armed with undeniable proof and fiery determination. Behind the scenes, she quietly established connections, asking questions, listening to gossip, and confirming details with the subtlety required in a world where appearances masked deeper intentions. The socialite, unaware her actions were being quietly scrutinized, prepared to enjoy the event's spotlight. As the evening progressed, Savannah's focus sharpened. She waited for the perfect moment to draw the curtain back on deception, knowing the stakes for her, and for truth, had never been higher. The night of the Arts Foundation Gala arrived like a shimmering wave, its elegance gently crashing over the city's skyline as guests arrived in sleek limousines, their laughter and polished conversations threading through the ornate corridors. Savannah Lee moved with quiet purpose behind the scenes, dressed simply but suitably in a black dress and low heels, her role as a volunteer assistant unnoticed amid the pomp and grandeur. This was her chance, the moment she'd risked everything for, to reclaim her name and reveal the truth that had been buried beneath whispers and blame. From early in the evening, Savannah had sharpened her presence in the wings, trading polite nods with security staff, catering attendants, and the event's organizers. It was a delicate balance, to remain unobtrusive while ensuring she had the connections needed when the moment arrived. The socialite who had accused Savannah at the previous gala was a guest here, expected to deliver a speech praising the foundation's generosity. She was draped in glittering gowns and pearls, her smile practiced and poised, an image of effortless charm that hid sharper undertones beneath. Savannah's heart quickened as the time for the speech approached. She had shared the video evidence, the security footage exposing the socialite's sabotage, with the gala's head organizer, Evelyn Pierce, a woman known for her fairness and discreet handling of delicate matters. Evelyn had promised to support Savannah when the opportunity presented itself. As the crowd gathered in the grand auditorium, the chatter rose to an expectant hum. The lights dimmed, and Evelyn took the stage first, delivering a warm welcome and setting the tone for the evening. Savannah stood at the edge of the room, eyes fixed on the socialite strolling confidently to the microphone, her poise a sharp contrast to Savannah's steady determination. Seconds into the speech, Evelyn gave a subtle nod, and suddenly, the large projector screen behind the socialite flickered to life. The gallery of faces turned toward the screen without warning. The video began. Crystal clear footage played, the sequence unraveling in slow motion, showing the socialite deliberately brushing against the table, her expression calculating as the wine glasses wobbled precariously. Close-ups revealed the faint smirk that crossed her lips before the glasses toppled in a dramatic cascade, wine spilling like rubies onto the polished floor and guests' attire. The room fell into a stunned silence as the undeniable truth unfolded in real time. A murmur rippled through the sea of elegant guests, eyebrows furrowed in disbelief and surprise. The socialite's confident smile faltered, her eyes darting toward the screen, then toward the crowd, searching for support that no longer existed. The atmosphere shifted palpably, the elegant facade fractured in an instant. Savannah felt a flutter of nerves, but also a fierce, quiet satisfaction. She had risked everything to stand here with the truth on her side. The socialite tried to salvage the moment, voice wavering as she attempted a denial. "This is a mistake, taken out of context." But the murmuring crowd cut through her protests like a rising tide. Voices grew louder, questions whispered and then spoken aloud, shaking the foundation of her carefully crafted image. Whispers of deceit, sabotage, and betrayal floated through the air, gathering momentum with each passing second. Evelyn took the microphone, her voice calm and resolute. "Ladies and gentlemen, the footage you've seen reveals a serious breach in the ethics we uphold at our events. The individual responsible will face consequences in due course." Her gaze met Savannah's briefly, a meaningful exchange of respect. The socialite's composure cracked, panic flickering across her features as realization dawned that the guest's support had crumbled. The shame that followed was swift and unrelenting. Savannah observed quietly as the crowd's tone shifted, judgment now directed firmly at the true culprit rather than the scapegoat. Several guests began to whisper assurances to Savannah, nodding in acknowledgement of her courage and clear vindication. The men and women who had once eyed her with suspicion now regarded her with a mixture of respect and newfound admiration. The crowd's mood had flipped, the tide turning in a way that seemed almost surreal to Savannah. Security quietly approached the socialite, escorting her from the stage and the eyes of the elite, her earlier arrogance replaced by a trembling urgency. Savannah watched as the woman was led away, the room's energy vibrating with the release of tension and the quiet satisfaction of justice served. The final moments of the evening carried a lighter air, music resuming with a softer melody. Savannah found herself approached by Evelyn, who smiled warmly and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did what many wouldn't have the courage to attempt," she said. "This night is as much your victory as it is the Foundation's." Savannah nodded, emotions bubbling beneath her calm exterior, a mix of relief, pride, and the unmistakable sense that this was more than just clearing her name. It was reclaiming her voice in a world that had tried to silence it. Returning to the backstage corridor, Savannah felt eyes following her, not just with curiosity, but with genuine respect. The quiet assistant, the humble event helper, was no longer invisible. Instead, she stood tall, a woman who had faced humiliation and doubt and found the strength to set the record straight. As she moved through the ornate halls, she caught glimpses of the guests she'd previously feared, some offering nods of approval, others smiling with newfound warmth. Savannah's chest tightened with gratitude and an unexpected sense of belonging. She paused briefly near the exit, taking a deep breath as the night's excitement settled around her. The air outside was cool, carrying the city's night sounds like a gentle reminder of a world both vast and full of possibilities. Savannah allowed herself a small smile, head held high not because the journey was over, but because she had navigated its shadows with grace and unwavering resolve. Tonight, the silence that had once swallowed her voice finally broke. And it had echoed louder than any accusation ever could. The days following the gala unfolded with a shifting tide of consequences. The socialite, whose calculated sabotage had been caught in the unforgiving light of truth, faced swift and decisive action. The Arts Foundation's board convened promptly, uncomfortable but resolute in their duty to uphold integrity. Public announcements declared her removal from the foundation's membership and invitations revoked from all affiliated events and organizations. Her name circulated briefly in social columns, but now tinged with scandal rather than praise. Invitations she once accepted with a smile were returned unopened, and whispers of her disgrace rippled through elite circles like sudden storm clouds. The veneer of glamour cracked for those who had once envied her effortless presence. Savannah Lee, by contrast, found herself stepping into a new light. The gala's head organizer, Evelyn Pierce, not only offered a formal public apology but extended an unexpected and generous gesture, a promotion to assistant event coordinator, complete with a modest raise and the opportunity to shape future events rather than simply serve them. Evelyn's voice was steady and sincere as she conveyed the offer, acknowledging Savannah's professionalism, eyesight for detail, and the courage it took to stand against falsehood. "You deserved better from the start," Evelyn said. "We want you with us, not in the shadows, but leading with us." For Savannah, it was more than a job offer, it was a restoration of dignity and trust. She weighed the gesture thoughtfully. Her independence was hard-won, and while she appreciated the invitation, her days of silent compliance were over. Yet the path forward gleamed fuller now, lit by recognition and respect she had never dared to expect. The event manager, Marcus Gillespie, who had dismissed Savannah without a second thought, approached her at the foundation headquarters with a cautious expression. His usual veneer of confidence was cracked by discomfort as he coughed and attempted to smooth over prior mistakes. "Savannah," he began, voice hesitant, "I want to say, I'm sorry for how things were handled. You were wronged." The sincerity in his tone felt unfamiliar, almost awkward. She listened without immediate response, eyes steady. "Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. But I've learned that respect isn't given lightly. It's earned, by actions, not just words." Her words were calm but firm, showing the inner strength that had been tempered by experience. Walking out of the office later that day, Savannah felt a quiet pride she hadn't known in years. The city outside shimmered with evening lights, the hum of life around her softened by the steady beat of her own heart. She no longer walked unnoticed or underestimated. Her head held high, Savannah moved forward with clear purpose. She was not only cleared of blame but united with allies who valued her integrity and skills. The silent, modest woman they had once judged had become a figure of respect, welcomed not as an outsider, but as a vital part of a world she'd quietly worked to be part of all along. That night, as Savannah left the impressive building behind her, the crisp air was filled with distant laughter and music from celebrations still unfolding. She inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of past burdens lifting, replaced by the promise of a future shaped by her own determination. Her steps echoed confidently, each one a quiet defiance against the shadows of doubt she had once carried. At last, Savannah Lee was no longer invisible.